I feel like I've seen enlightenment, and I thought it was going to be about levitating and telekinesis, and it's actually just about an increased awareness of how annoying I am. Take a break from talking about comments, but this might be the weirdest one we've ever gotten. Someone said, would you guys be open to a debate? My girl really likes your show, and I have some concerns with what you guys seem to be about.
Sounds like daddy's got control issues.
Yeah, I'm like, I hope she gave him permission to write that comment, because if you wrote that comment on a podcast that I likes, like, I would leave the state and I would take the cats. Yeah, that would activate my PDA to the max. And also, like, maybe I just like things that you don't like. Why are you concerned about it? But also, can you imagine a debate? Listen, if you want to debate us, you're going to have to be a vegan like everybody else. You're going to have to wait behind all the vegans.
Yeah, so what there must be insinuating that, like, our conversations have probably catalyzed this person to take action and do something different in reality, that then the boyfriend's like, why are you doing this? And they're like, well, I heard it on a podcast.
Yeah, now I just want to know what part.
And then somebody that doesn't have context listens to this podcast and is like, this is a cult.
Yeah, I get that a lot.
Yeah, and then gets concerned with, like, what we're putting out as, you know, trying to, like, we're trying to change other people or convert people into some fucking cult, you know?
Yeah, but, like, so you want to debate it?
Yeah, it's weird.
Do you know what I mean? So why are we going to street fight? Why don't you just listen to the podcast?
Or don't.
Form your own opinion about it, and then just exist in a partnership with someone who maybe likes some things that you don't like. I don't understand.
Yeah, this is the whole thing about parts of the society that are like hyper conformative, that like everybody needs to conform to a certain way of thinking, and if people veer outside of that, it becomes a cult, or it's dangerous. It's really negatively influencing. That it's so hard for people to even consider other ways of being without it being some fearful thing of like you're deviating from the pack. That's very dangerous.
Yeah, but I just now I want to know which part. Like, no, I'm not going to fucking debate you.
That's why I said when you texted me that, I was like, yes, I will debate. Let's debate. I'm really interested in what.
We don't even know what part.
Dangerous.
Like, if you are a consciousness podcast and someone is in a relationship with someone who's going through an awakening, you know the drill. Then if you're losing your partner to awakening, then you're going to think everything they're listening to is cult stuff. You're going to think the psychedelics they're doing is giving them brain damage or whatever the fuck is because they're slipping through your fingers. But then it's like, or are you into consciousness stuff, but you just have like different dogma than we have? I just want to know what part. That's why I should comment. What part? But also, did you get permission to leave this comment? Because whoever you are, girl, who's into our podcast, we appreciate you. If you did not give him permission to leave that comment.
Molly, you in danger, girl.
What else?
So what else is new?
There's a couple other things popping off. I'm finally feeling grounded in this Aries energy.
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of people, like some on sessions, and then some friends have reached out. They're like, yo, what? Are you sleeping for 4 days in a row? Am I the only one? I mean, then other people in sessions, it's just been really heavy. They've had a lot of transformation or a lot of dark stuff. And yeah, I feel like we've experienced some bumps in the roads. The thing that to me has been like the only way I've been able to get through it is like water, lots of fucking water and grounding, like double the dose of normalcy. I can't get enough water and I'm like still dehydrated. And so that focusing on that has actually curbed it a lot. It's helped mitigate either the exhaustion or hypersensitive triggering.
Well, there's so much happening. We're getting fucking blasted by solar energy, and the Schumann resonance is through the roof. I mean, we're just really getting like forced through this consciousness elevation very fast. And I feel like that's where it feels like electric and you can't get enough water. I had to quit taking Vyvanse. I only take Vyvanse now a few days a week to lift weights. And the aggro part of like being overstimulated and like, it's not angry, it's like irritated, just like easily irritated. I've noticed like exercise has helped.
Dude, that's like been a game changer for me too. When I'm frustrated, just go take it out on some push-ups and some pull-ups, and I feel so much better after that. Yeah, and then sweating a lot. Like we've been doing nightly hot ass baths to sweat out everything.
Yeah. It's like a lot of energy.
What's this thing? Have you seen stuff about the sun? Like, I mean, obviously there's the sunspots and the Schumann resonance, everything is going crazy. But I've seen, and I've actually noticed it outside too, that like people on TikTok are talking about the sun is more intense than usual. I follow a lot of people that are like gardeners and plant people, and some people were like, hey, I've like put my plants out in direct sunlight. Like these specific plants need direct sunlight all day long. And I'm watering the hell out of them, but they are frying in the sun. And if I bring them under shade, it's not the direct sunlight, then they start to recover and they're okay. And I've noticed some plants that I have outside that are typically like last couple seasons, they've been fine out direct sun, but that they are like, they're needing a lot more water and they are getting fried no matter how much water I put in them.
So I know we're in the solar maximum, which is like the sun moves in a 12-year cycle, and it peaks every 12 years. And we're like, this year is the solar maximum. So we're getting more like, I think it's geomagnetic storms and like solar flares. I don't know if that makes the sun more intense or not. It definitely energetically makes it more intense for us.
I feel the energy, like, for sure, and that, like, I understand that, and I kind of understand the sun intensifying in cycles. But it is like if I go out and work in the yard, it's like I get sunburnt a little bit quicker, and it's like a lot more intense. I don't know how to explain it, but the physical sensation from the sun is way more intense. And I think there's a lot like of stuff that I've been reading in other books that there is like there's a huge cycle happening right now. There are these minor cycles, but we're on the cusp of like a really big one. And that definitely, like, the sun plays a huge part in that. It's doing the cycle as well. And so that's where we get all of our energy, the codes and everything. And so the energetic effects, I feel like, is DNA stuff. Like there's upgrading of DNA, which is what would cause exhaustion. You know, you have to sleep to let that stuff integrate. Then there's also other stuff just with the sun potentially like changing, a potential like vapor canopy coming back in play, which was like a long time ago. That's kind of how the world was. You think of it as like a greenhouse. When you have like a vapor canopy and the sun is a little more dimmed, it's a very conducive environment for plant life and for like the life underneath to grow. And then there's times when it opens up, and then that's just like a different growth pattern. And I find it interesting that there's some, like, in general, obviously the sun is like the life force of everything. Like, we're all getting energy from the sun, so it's a positive thing. And then all this knowledge from Jack Kruse that is like circadian rhythm and getting out in the sun helps heal a lot of ailments and disease. And it's, kind of backwards thinking to put sunscreen on and have sunglasses on. This all like messes up your circadian rhythm. You're more susceptible to burning, to skin cancers when you do all of that. And so getting more into this natural space that people used to be, where they were like wake up with the sun, get out in the sun all day, and go to sleep with the sun, is actually more harmonic with the body, and you operate better. Your cells are not as damaged, they can regenerate. But then there's also, like, I've heard theories that the sun in general, at least the way it is right now, does like increase aging in some ways, like that. So it's not all, it's positive, obviously, but that there's potential, like if we're in a certain cycle and we're about to transition into something different, that the sun is like part of this third density kind of era we're in. And as you move into a different one, like it kind of is now not as conducive to the growth cycle that we're moving into, you know? So like,
oh, interesting.
Starting to think about that, like, and I don't know the answer, but it's like, oh, maybe that's why certain people are experiencing the sun as like overbearing and a bit too much.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like, and I've heard a lot of like with whatever this cycle is, that there is some kind of natural event that is going to occur that is kind of cataclysmic for certain people. And a lot of it has to do with the sun and this brown dwarf star that's like coming into our atmosphere that is going to engage the new cycle. But it's a companion star with the sun, so it has something to do with the sun. And I'm not exactly clear on what the mechanism is, how they interact. But the brown star, I think, is supposed to be something that kind of like activates the new reality. And that the closer it gets, the more we feel those effects. Why are you laughing?
I don't know, brown star?
That's what they call it. Brown dwarf star.
I'm just kidding.
Talking about buttholes?
It just sounds like a butthole. That's my contribution to all that. Well, ChatGPT did say that the sun gets more intense, more UV.
Yeah.
So, and it is interesting. Like the UV rays give you life, but almost accelerate it.
Right.
If you get too much of it.
Yeah, it accelerates aging, and yeah, which is like a positive. But on certain levels, you could see it as like, oh, it's a negative. It needs balance or something. But I don't know if we can compute what that is, like in a new reality or in like a fourth density reality. It's like, it's so hard to conceive of from this level. So I don't know if we fully understand what that mechanism is, but It's obviously there's like shit changing.
Right.
And maybe it is just like shortwave cycles that the sun intensifies every now and then.
Well, so I wonder if this goes with this other thing. Because I remember from like in 2020, 2021, people who usually get sunburned were not getting sunburned. And they were saying that the sun, like, remember there were people that thought it was a different sun because the sun was like dimmer. And this goes into this thing I'm fascinated with on TikTok. So there's something called the 2020 effect, which is where the people talked a lot about a couple years ago, where if you ask somebody what 3 years ago was in 2023, they would say 2017, because there's something where time was so distorted by the fact that we stayed home for 2 years and like life stopped, that it's hard for us to conceive that like right now 2017 was fucking 8 years ago, and that feels insane. And I think what they call it, they say the 2020 effect is because life was so slow for a couple of years that now normal life feels like everything's going very fast. I'm not buying that. My life hasn't changed drastically from 2020. And it's going fast as fuck. Like time is going fast as hell. 2020 went really slow, but this is like the world was different. Like the energy was different in 2020. Like to even move through reality was all resistance. It was so strange. And reality was literally in grayscale. Like all the colors faded. And so what's crazy to me is if you type in 2020 effect or 2020 effect 2025 in TikTok, you will not run out of TikToks showing like 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023 for all like pale, like grayscale, and then the sun comes back out in 2025. Or the sun was out the whole time, but it's like bright again. And I have been noticing it's so fucking bright. Like everything's like neon.
Yeah.
And it started last year, but I have not been able to, I've been like, is this just because I never noticed nature before? Is this because there's more trees where we live, but we literally have so many trees where we lived before? And it was pretty, but I think we were living in the underworld is what I believe. I believe that 2020, we hit this karmic washing machine that I got a download about before it happened, and that people have just been fighting their way out of the underworld. And I'm defining fighting your way out of the underworld is like whatever your soul has karmically been trying to figure out throughout thousands of lifetimes. It's now like go time. And so we were all thrown into the underworld to kind of face our worst nightmares. What was that download? That a glitter was going to hit the planet and cause us to go into a karmic washing machine where we would have to face our worst nightmare over and over and over again until we finally like beat that level. And so over the course of the last few years, people have been beating that level and moving in out of the underworld and back into what I think is the new thing. You know, I don't like to new earth like a fucking new ager, but reality is different. It's not what it was in 2019. We didn't go back. And so a lot of people posting that stuff are like, we're going back to 2019 or we're going back to 2016. It's like, we're not going back anywhere. But and I don't know if we are collectively beating that level or what it was, but there was like, we died in 2020. Like that world died and has not come back. And some people are playing some sort of Pet Cemetery simulation of that world that we've marveled at for years, but something is different. It's brighter. I saw a TikTok where someone was like, this shit it's over. It's a new game already. And it just takes a minute for it to load. So you'll see people out there still doing the same things, but it just hasn't caught up yet. Like the physical reality hasn't caught up yet, but energetically it has changed.
Yeah.
And that feels so true to me. I felt, only way how to describe it is like trying to move through Jello. Like energetically, the ether was thick and heavy and just filled with grief and filled with pain and filled with like resentment and just everything shitty. And that you just had to spend like 2020 through 2023 just like fucking digging through it. And even if like your external circumstances were easier. And then remember we went and saw Noah Lampert as we had started to dig out of it. We went and saw him and he was in it. He had just gotten in it.
Right.
So maybe it's not a hard line, but it's something has changed, and people who are not even into this stuff have noticed it.
Yeah.
And I was really into these TikToks a couple years ago, maybe it was last year, where people, which it was like, 2016 to 2019 just shows them like partying or whatever. And then 2020 hits and it's like, and it's quiet. And then it just shows them from now on just kind of staring at a wall. And the people who are posting that kind of stuff are now like, what? The old game is back, which I don't think is true, but I do think we are climbing out of the underworld, which lines up with all the downloads I've gotten. And then now that I'm understanding the human design stuff, the global cycle stuff, it's like we have like, this is the beginning of the birth energy. We've just been in death for 5 straight years.
And it kind of mimics the idea of the split idea, like where the world went into that like underworld kind of dark night thing. And there was an opportunity to face your biggest fears, deprogram, realize you're in a life that you don't want. Now's the time to adjust. You're like given the opportunity to pause because we can't go out into the world. And some people were like quickly ready to do that and started adjusting their lives, and it was hard and difficult. And then some people like chose to just fuck off and do whatever, and then like wait for the world to go back. And we're desiring like, I just want to get back to my job. I want to get back to the old world. And so those are maybe the people that are kind of, it's like missing an opportunity to switch a timeline and get on to the new growth of like fourth density or new world or whatever. That then are, people that did the work are experiencing like, oh my God, the world is abundant and its life is like blossoming everywhere. And there's like a new energy starting to tune into like more awareness, more sensitivity in the body, things like that. But people that weren't doing that work are now like being forced. They're going to get forced into it, or are being forced into it to start doing that work. And so it is like this gradient. But I would say still some people that aren't seeing that there's like reality is now abundant and new and different, are still doing the Pet Cemetery, kind of like playing out old patterns, but it's not working anymore. And like they're slowly starting to get the message. So that idea of like the splitting is like kind of, it feels like we are not still in the middle of that, but we're still like seeing the effects of it, Yeah. Because sometimes I feel like our reality is like very different than what we were like viewing online. Mm-hmm. There's some people that are still just like really stuck in victimization and the world's happening to me and I can't control it, where like a lot of times we're in this like very light, abundant, malleable reality.
Well, that victim consciousness is a big part of the new world because it's the shadow of the 55th gate. So believing that life is happening to you is and that should be fixed externally. It's such an interesting, Cross the Sleeping Phoenix and Cross the Planning are so different, but having that victim consciousness be the primary shadow of the new world is like such a bridge from the old world to the new.
Yeah.
So there's definitely like room to figure that out, even though people who are experience kind of the higher expressions of what's available in the Cross of Sleeping Phoenix will be literally living in a different world than people who are, and that victim consciousness is gnarly and not fun and really hard to get out of. But I don't know what, like watching anything with like celebrities is so weird. it's so weird to me now because it's so obvious we are on a different timeline and like they didn't get the memo. Like that's where it's loudest to me is like people still living in a world that is about them being above other people and them. It's very loud and their need for attention and external validation is just on. I don't know if anyone else is experiencing this, but it's so loud. It's like so loud in the ether and it's like embarrassing. Like when I see it, I'm like, oh, I'm embarrassed for you. I've probably already said this, something I've been watching a lot lately where I was just never into celebrity stuff, but I definitely understood that like culture saw them as above other people. And so when they were doing self-important red carpets or whatever and kind of like, I don't know, even when they're acting like, even when the like actresses are acting like, oh my God, I'm awkward or whatever. It's like it's so loud. You know, you're being watched and nothing's real. Like nothing you're doing is real or authentic. It's like fake. I don't know. And like Jimmy Kimmel clips feel like MK Ultra propaganda or something. I don't know. It's all just giving me a fucking weird feeling in my spirit.
It used to be like it could get away with it because the culture did kind of play into the, like that, oh, they are important. And we kind of really respect the fame and celebrity people. They've worked their way there and this is great art. And so the illusion, it worked. But yeah, I think there's a lot of people have done a lot of healing and seen through a lot of the illusions of reality and that they're landing in a new place. And now watching that same kind of masquerading that celebrities do it's so clear how much of it is an illusion or a manicured, like overly produced thing that is very much like a spectacle. And now people are seeing it as just that. It's like, this is a spectacle. This isn't real. This is not raw. And you have the new generation of kids coming in that are just like programmed raw, real, authentic, don't care what people think. And that's now the new thing that people want more of. And so in contrast, when you see the overly produced, curated celebrity thing that it's like, oh, this isn't authentic at all. And there's like, it's an insecurity and overcompensating for stuff that, yeah, I think is now really abundantly clear. I feel like when I was in that, like bumping up in that world, I saw it at certain times. I would feel this like way that we're describing, where I was like, this is all fake. Like everybody's being so fucking fake and hyper aware of cameras being on and watching people shift once they knew they were walking into a room with cameras. Like they would literally like put a mask on and be this other person that garnered attention. And then going into the room in the green room later, it was like, boom, now they were authentic in this other person. And I was like, always like, what is this game we're all playing? What? Everyone's really insecure, but then you get in front of the camera and you like act overly positive and confident. You know, it was easier to see like when I was in it, I could start to see the illusion of it. But now, yeah, it feels like most people don't care about that shit anymore. And it is like cringy, embarrassing, you know, especially for like the younger generation that has found a new source of like freedom and authenticity that is like rooted in just being raw and real. Then you see these other people that have all these followers or have just been these legends in reality, like not capable of doing that it's like, oh,
yeah. And it's cringy. Like, you didn't get the memo, like, because you're so, that's when I think of who didn't do the work. Like, that's what I think of is like,
well, it's funny because they didn't have to.
They didn't have
I think
to.
The
like
dark
people
world,
didn't.
People were forced to face shit. You know,
yeah.
Being in a job every day and not realizing your home life is actually toxic as fuck, and you have to be now at home all the time. You're like, oh shit, I don't want that. You're forced to do it. If you're in a, you know, got a lot of money and you're a celebrity, like your world doesn't change that much. You still have the comfort. You have the ability to kind of like fuck off and not do any work. You know, you're not forced into it. That's why I think it's like, it is an option. It's like you didn't have to do that. But I feel like in that underworld, there was like a lot of wind in our sails to do the shadow work and like really adjust. because the world was at a standstill. It's like now you can do those things and it's not going to be as difficult once the world comes back online. It's like it's a little harder to get into the shadow parts of yourself, you know?
Yeah, it's just, I think when people think of safety and security, you know, we think of money. And when you know, that's the struggle for most people in this culture. But when you get around like rich, famous people who like, yeah, they don't have to worry about money, but they don't have, not all of them, this is a generalization, but there are a shit ton of people in this world that do not know how to generate their own authority or their own validation or their own like autonomy or their own like self-love.
They need it from others.
They need it from other people.
Yeah.
And I think looking at that, and obviously that's like something I can see really easy. So it's something I'm observing right now. But when you're talking about celebrity, people who are drawn to that, or like when you're talking about politics or like corporate oligarchs, those are people who are very drawn to power. And they don't feel powerful unless they're holding other people's power. They are not going to do well as this energy comes in and levels the playing field. People who need to be on a red carpet on a regular basis, and that's what's very loud to me, is like, I need to be seen, I need pictures taken of me. Like, I don't know if you've ever met like a celebrity after they become irrelevant. I've worked with a couple. It's a nightmare. It's like a vacuum. It's a black hole of a person because literally they don't have the thing that the rest of us have been developing for years, which is like like a sense of self that doesn't come from everyone fucking worshiping you.
Yeah.
And so that's the shit where I'm like, when we talk about, oh, the collapse of this system, everyone just thinks about money and resources. They don't think about what the new age is actually, like what the Cross the Sleeping Phoenix is actually about is like power that comes from inside of you. Like self-love and the ability to steer and shape realities and worlds based on your own sense of purpose and self. Authenticity is like the bedrock, right? Intuitive insight, like the ability to intuit what is right for you. So that is the shit where if you weren't successful in, you know, if you, and I'm not talking about moderately successful, if you didn't make it to the top of the fucking food chain or the pyramid in the old thing, you have, without even knowing it, been doing the work. It is those who spent all their time and energy climbing that mountain that are going to be truly fucked, because money's not going to be the biggest issue when this energy changes. When your entire sense of purpose in life has been consolidating power, like corporate oligarchs and people in the government, when people start taking their power back, you're going to feel like the blood is being drained from your body. And when you have been amassing external validation, that is such a, like, I've been around so many people that have that. It's such a temporary high. It's such a temporary piece of food. These people like start to wither on the vine without it. And so that is what I mean when I say, like, I'm watching people do Pet Cemetery, is like, you're chasing something that's actually over. It's been over. And you are so addicted to it and like literally have no idea how to pivot from here that you're not aware that it's over. You're still doing shows and red carpets. You know, the oligarchs are still trying to figure out how to get everyone into some sort of digital surveillance system where it's like, do you know you have 30 seconds? Like, it's almost over. You're not going to be able to get everybody into some digital fucking prison in time. No one's going back to worshiping celebrities. Nobody gives a fuck. People care about TikTokers. Do you know what I mean? And that's like, it's only going to get worse. So that's the shit that I watched that I'm like, yeah, man, I don't know, 0 internal work. You've done 0 fucking internal work. You've just been trying to amass external things, and you don't feel, that's why you don't feel the thing shifting. You have no fucking idea.
Yeah.
So while everyone else has been doing fucking push-ups on their internal experience, this is where the last becomes the first and the first becomes the last. Like, this is how it happens because the world is becoming internal. So what do you got inside of you? And if you've just been spending all your time on figuring out how to take fucking resources or like, you know, get lip fillers and, you know, I obviously am not a, if your entire consciousness has been spent worrying about things outside of you and getting things from other people, it was just the Cross of Planning was a great place for you to be about that. But the Cross of Sleeping Phoenix is just such a rude awakening, you know, to that. So that is, you know, I don't know, hopefully encouraging to people listening is like, it's not yet externally super obvious that the playing field is being leveled as we speak, but energetically the playing field is being leveled as we speak. And I think that will become very obvious in the next 5-ish years.
Yeah. It's like a gradient. I feel like it takes a minute to click in, but if you've done the work, then you start to get a sense. It's like, oh, it is really shifting. You can see it. I feel like, not to just to make it esoteric for a second, because it makes me think of I've always been curious about like the death portal that we all go through, and the talks of like when you die and you leave your body, there's like just a click over and you don't really like disintegrate and go into nothingness, and you're now all of your focus, like your consciousness is not tied to the body anymore. And so it very much is like what steers your experience. And so doing internal work and like getting power from within feels like it's a preparation for death, or what we could say now is a preparation for going into a new density of reality. So we're doing that work kind of like not really knowing why, but it's like we're being led to do this intuitively. And I've always been concerned, like the more I learned about the death thing and like having psychedelic experiences and really like playing with dreams a lot, that I feel like I know that the feeling of death, like where your body's not there anymore, but your consciousness is just still right there. And there's like, you almost wouldn't know that you've died because the light is still on. And being able to control that experience means like being self-aware, knowing like what is going on inside and not being run by your subconscious or the spectacle, being like kind of distracted by that, trying to get external things, is how you would best navigate that world. And then learning about fourth density, it's like outside of time. Time is so much of what controls our physical experience. To manifest a reality, you have to kind of like do work, and it takes weeks, months to get into like a new version of reality. Going into fourth density, there's no time. So your tool is your consciousness and how much you can focus on something, how much passion you have to like experience something directs it, you know? And so like, to me, that it makes it like that's what the preparation is for, is like moving into a reality where you literally individually are going to build a world for yourself. And we will do that collectively as well, because we're all going to be on a similar resonance, but we will be able to like present ourselves how we choose to be presented, and you're going to like plug into each other, but it's in a way that is like all based on individual power and ability to control that space. That, I don't know, to me, like in the video game world, that's what makes it like exciting. I don't want to like go into that world and be a part of somebody else's world that's being built, which is like what is the celebrity thing is like or the external validation, needing that external validation, you're setting yourself up to go into a world that's built by somebody else because you need the external thing.
Yeah.
So you're at the helm of what someone else is able to give to you, which is interesting because like in the fourth density reality, that would be like you're the lowest now. Like you can't build your own world.
Yeah.
Right. So it does become like the last is the first, and the first is the last from this reality going into the new one. Like you can't build your own reality because you haven't done the work. You don't know who you are. You don't know what is directing you.
Right.
As far as your subconscious. Does that make sense?
And it's all just like, I like to talk shit about things that I'm still judging or whatever, but it's all just doesn't matter anyway, because you're going to karmically do whatever you're going to do. But just using that as a disclaimer for the shit I just talked about celebrities. But yeah, it's, there's two different ways I want to go with this conversation. I want to talk about your Scorpio midheaven. That's very loud.
Yeah, what you're like laughing the whole time and talking. It's like really hard to focus.
Sorry.
Like, I thought I skewed some word.
No, no, I really liked what you said, but
my Scorpio midheaven is the dark part.
Yeah, I can never. Okay, so I did a midheaven class on Patreon last week or last month or something, and when I got to Scorpio midheaven, because that's what you have. Midheaven is like how you approach your life's work or how you're perceived by, it's your public image. And mine is in Gemini, so I never shut the fuck up, which I'm sure is how I'm perceived. I'm perceived as like a communicator or whatever. And yours is in Scorpio, and your South Node is there, which is like what you've always been in past lives. So it's your comfort zone. And then your Pluto is there because you're a millennial. So all your guys' Pluto is there. And so there is like a depth and kind of a darkness to all, not darkness, but comfort with darkness or whatever that is like all millennials. But I have often thought of doing a drinking game where people, they don't drink, but I don't know what they do. They eat a microdose or something. Every time you say dark or darkness and how you bring every conversation back to darkness.
Yeah.
And while I was doing this class, all of a sudden it clicked as I was like describing Scorpio energy. Scorpio energy is death, is the underworld, and you have a lot of it. And you used to talk so much about preparing your consciousness so when you die, you know where to go next. And that used to freak me the fuck out because I was like, are you planning on dying soon? And I'm just like, oh, this is all just Scorpio energy. This is so funny. So it's kind of what I was laughing at because I was like, you're like, all right. Not to make it esoteric, but let's
go dark, baby.
Let's bring this back. Every conversation we have, you're like, all right, but there's also a dark side of it. I'm like, oh, I'm doing a podcast with a Scorpio midheaven. So the thing that you're talking about was like being able to create your own world. I used to be someone who needed a lot of external validation. And I would say my relationship with that has like shifted over my lifetime. Like I was someone who was like, I was one of these like compulsive liars that like just made up stories about my life from a very young age. This is a trauma response, turns out, but would make up stories. And this is how I became a very good storyteller, is straight up fabricating things. And I needed a lot of attention. And it does seem like that was a trauma response to nobody doing anything about the abuse. But then, I had a desire to be on stage. I was like, when I was young, I like knew I was going to be famous or whatever. And that was something that I really wanted when I was young. And then I started to develop like a complicated relationship with it the older I got, because I needed other people to make me feel good about myself, but then also didn't like the attention or didn't like the potential of them not liking me or something. I don't know. My Saturn is in the 12th house in Leo, so that's probably it. But I remember when I first started doing stand-up at 21, it was like I would hang out afterwards because I want to soak up being like the cool comedian or whatever. And when I went back to doing stand-up, because I quit while I did meth, and then when I went back to stand-up, and it was like NA conventions, which are like huge, like thousands of people at them sometimes. And I would, after doing the show, like walk around, you know, so that people could be like, oh my God, you're the comedian. And then within a couple years, I became like the opposite. It was like sell your merch and then get to your hotel room, like something. I realized I didn't like the way that felt or something. And it was like coinciding with me healing. And then, you know, now it's like, I think part of it is like getting that and then being like, what is this? Like, what is this? Like when you're a celebrity, especially when it's something like you're an actor, so it's not even your art, you know, it's your art that you're acting or whatever. But when it's in that like gate kept system, specifically, the people that worship you, like you don't know them, you don't know anything about them. So then like them validating you, they might all be weirdos. You know what I mean? They all might be fucking idiots. But like we're programmed to think that if large quantities of people think you're great, then that means you are great. And I think just over time doing art, I started to have these experiences where there was like, I could do mom comedy and have a bunch of people like become very popular. But then I was like, but I wouldn't hang out with these moms. Like, I don't like wine. Like, this isn't my vibe of people. Like, if I was myself with these wine moms outside of me bitching about my kids, you know, or bitching about toddlers or whatever, like they wouldn't like me as a person. So, and I probably wouldn't like them either. So why does this make me successful?
Why do I need their attention?
Yeah, that they like me because it's not real. And so I had all these like weird, because when I quit doing mom comedy, I said like, I'd rather have people really know me than to be like universally palatable. And so I just started to slowly connect that attention and that acclaim you get is almost never about you as a person. It's about other people using you as a mirror to like hand their power over. And that the thing I've been seeking my whole life is to make art so authentic that the people who do like it actually like me.
Yeah.
And what I realized when I just went back to stand up is like, I don't know that I could ever do that in stand up because I'm not very quick witted, I guess. I think there are comedians who are maybe like letting people see them, but podcasting for me is the only way to something like this, long form, slow, with someone I trust, is the only way that like people can see like a glimpse of who I actually am. You have to know me to see who I actually am, but that's never going to be, if I'm truly being me, it's never going to be like widely popular because I am a very weird kind of niche person. You know, we have boyfriends out here that are concerned about what I'm saying into microphones, as they should be. So I realize over time that like fame is this illusion of it, like consensus telling you you're great, but it's not real because those aren't your people. You don't know if those are your people. And then when you go to like, that's just me doing my own individual art as a stand-up. When you go to the machine, that's what I'm looking at, like quote unquote A-listers, that's a gate kept system, meaning those people are super famous because they have been chosen by very rich people who have an agenda. So they're not even like real art. Like when you're like, I'm not gonna say they're not real artists, but that's a part of like a machine. And if you don't go along with what the machine says, they'll throw you the fuck out and make you look crazy. And that just goes to show that what everyone loves you for is manufactured. It's all manufactured to use you to control other people. So then when you're just like, yeah, I'm hot shit, fucking worship me on a red carpet. And it's like, you're there right now because you're being exploited by something above you. But at the same time, you're exploiting people who are giving you their power. It's all just extremely parasitic and it's fucking weird. And it's not but the hole in the aura of the people who are the celebrities who are participating in that is that they believe that someone else outside of them has to tell them that they're valid, and that, like, if they didn't have that, like if they became washed up or they get kicked out, what the vacuum that they would have to deal with is now you're going to have to find that inside of yourself. And the rest of us that don't have red carpets to stand on or whatever have been having to kind of do that work, even if you don't call it doing the work, because at some point in your life, you have to face the fact that, like, nobody's coming to save you and that nobody can love, everyone's going through like a breakup or something to make them face the part of them that you can only find inside of yourself.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And so fame is fucking weird if you think about it. Like, celebrity worship is odd.
Yeah, you don't got to tell me. I just speak.
I know we talk about
right
this
now.
so much. I'm probably
you're describing it really well, though. Like the nuance of that, the illusion of fame answering all your problems, and it is like when you're chosen into that higher level, a lot of those people believe their own legend, and so that's how they get you, because it is this like ego feeding thing that feels very real, and externally it convinces you it's real because you do get material wealth and you get into higher levels of reality, and then the culture worships you, so it validates like, oh, I am worthy of it, I'm supposed to be here, and it perpetuates the thing. If any of those people do have a glimmer of some kind of awakening and realize what's going on and start to try to speak the truth, they get ejected from it, canceled, sometimes unalived, whatever needs to happen to prevent that amount of influence being used to wake people up to take their power back. It's like, and that's what I'm always trying to convince people that are kind of caught in the illusion of like, I want to do art and I want to be successful because I want to heal a lot of people. It's like, okay, well, if that's your goal, if your goal is to like move people with your art and tell difficult truths and, quote, wake people up or get them into their power, being famous is the last thing that you should do, like, because you're not going to be able to do it. Actually, it can happen when people do it, subvert, like they can put it in metaphor, deep metaphor within their art. And so like there is great art that comes through the gate system that can, empower people, but it's so, you have to be really tactful with how to do that and not get caught up in believing your own legend with the ego, because the ego wants to jump on that so fast, and it's so nuanced. It's like it is so not the way to go if like your real goal is to make powerful art that wakes people up and you can be your authentic self and not get misunderstood. It's that machine won't let it happen. Like,
right.
You can't do it. And I do think, kind of back to the thing, creating worlds, is like, I think some being or some collective, some higher thing like created this world, and we're living in somebody else's imagination, and we're autonomous within it, but we've come into a matrix that is not meant to do what we're wanting to do with it. I think we're moving into a different reality where like that will be a thing, but we chose to come into this like kind of trap and get flipped upside down. And like a lot of us are programmed to want to go be famous to heal people and help people. But like you can't do it via that mechanism because it's a trap in the game. And that's what, I like started to put together as I was in it, and slowly walked backwards and went out the door I came in, was because I was like, there's no way to do it this way. And I have to eject myself from it, not only to like protect myself, but like so I can actually wake up, but then connect with people that are on my level. And like you said, like be as authentic as I can. And when people resonate with that, then they see me, and not be caught up in I felt the same way. Like when we had a lot of fans, there's so many fans that I would meet sometimes, or they'd come out on Instagram and like chat and talk, that I was like, no judgment, but like I wouldn't get along with you if I was in the same room with you. Like I don't know where we connect in this. And then I realized it was like, oh, because you see me as this kind of like monkey dancing that like is going to entertain and do this thing, when like at the core, I'm not totally that. Like, yeah, I loved doing art and playing music and connecting with people on this like emotional, spiritual level that music can do. But that was that. And then who I was outside of that was something like that I never presented in any public
Yeah,
space.
like you don't know me, you know my art. I think we talk a lot about separating the artist from the art, but it's like you like a song, you like an album, you don't like me, you don't know me.
And then, but people build an idea of who they think you are outside of it. And I would say it's even harder with actors because actors play a version of somebody that you can fall in love with on the screen, and then you meet them in real life, and it's like you actually are projecting onto them the character. And when they start to step outside of that character, it starts to become like difficult to connect, and you kind of resist it, or you judge them like, oh, you're not who I thought you were. It's like, yeah, I was playing a character on the screen. The real person is oftentimes never portrayed, you know, and sometimes people do it within press and like being now with social media, being able to like capture people's real live moments. But a lot of times the celebrities are protected in worlds that you can't see that because it's a part of the whole game. And like people, I don't know, it's like some of those people that play characters and get really famous for it, it's hard to not be that character.
Well, they don't exist. Many of them are just channels, and they don't exist outside of that. I've noticed in a couple that I've met. Yeah, I've learned that lesson the hard way a couple times, where you fall in love with a character that they played, and then you kind of superimpose that character onto them. So it's like if somebody just plays like really good guys all the time, you think it's a really good guy, and then you find out they're a fucking nightmare. And you have to go like, what is my relationship to these people that I don't fucking know? Like, why do I have a relationship to them? Why do I have... Why do we orient to other humans that are not in our lives this way? I think is a really interesting question to ask ourselves as we leave the cross of planning and go into the cross of sleeping phoenix, because the cross of planning, because we organized into these collective hierarchies, you know, I think we all cheer like, oh, the hierarchies are going to end, but we have to do the internal work around how we
are feeding that system.
Yeah, like just personally, like in our consciousness. Yeah. Like, why do we believe that the government is the boss? They are incompetent. They are corrupt. Like, it's right in front of your face that these people are fucking insider trading, that they're taking money from PACs, and that they're just doing the bidding of the PACs. Why? If we know that, like, you know, I've been screaming this from the rooftops for 25 fucking years, but now it's public knowledge. How do you know that and then take an election seriously? Like, make it make sense.
It's crazy.
Why you're like, they're not letting us do whatever. It's like, yeah, it's time to do crime. Like, I cannot fathom how we are so indoctrinated that there are still conversations about the government as if it is in charge of you. Like the questions are existential. Like, why do I believe that I have a boss? Like, why do I believe that there's a hierarchy of humans above me that are corrupt, like dementia ridden, breaking their fucking hips? You know what I mean? Like, old as fuck, not even tuned into the reality that I live in. Why do I believe they're in charge of me? Like, why do I believe that the pinnacle of, you know, success as an artist is to be chosen by a corrupt blackmail operation, like corrupt gatekeeper system that is just used to hypnotize the masses into whatever the fuck the thing, you know? It's like, we know all this stuff now. This is all like available information that is not even considered a conspiracy theory anymore. Yet we are still like subconsciously oriented to these things as if like looking up to them as if they're not like, and that's the thing that I think has really shifted for me. I don't know that I ever considered like Hollywood above me. I just always felt outside of everything. Like I always felt like I didn't fit in, so I just felt
But
outside.
there is the weird thing, and this is what like deconditioning is. I feel like I talk to people a lot in sessions, like I've woken up and I see the illusion, but like I don't know what to decondition. And it's like realizing that even though you know the knowledge, like we all see the government's corrupt, or we see that external authority corporations like don't have our best interest, but yet we still move in the reality as if they do. And that's a condition that's there that doesn't get removed from like the knowledge of it. It's figuring out where it is inside of you. And I think one good way is like the celebrity thing. A lot of us may think, we've seen through the illusion, celebrities are not above us. They're just humans. And they've had a specific experience that gives them access to certain parts of the reality that I might not have access to. And so you can realize all that and be like, oh, they're not above me. But when you walk into the grocery store and you're just in your own world, you're going to get groceries and you bump into somebody in front of you and they turn around and it's Brad Pitt. Can you still keep that stillness of that's just another person? That's not the guy from all the movie. Oh my, and not freak out and start to feel like, oh my God, it's Brad Pitt. Like that's the real test. And like that, even for me, like when I was in the world and like I saw many celebrities and like had the thing where I was like, oh my God, I'm nervous to meet them. I want to act cool, and like traversed all of that and then got out of it. Even still, like for a little while, if I'd go to LA and you do bump into random people at the coffee shop, there would still be a part of me that'd be like, whoa, I can't wait to tell somebody like I saw that person.
Yeah.
And what is that? Like, it's that? Conditioning that I have been led to believe that these people are more powerful and they're above me and they're better than me. And that it's very difficult to get through those conditions. Like actually ask yourself, why can I not run into Brad Pitt and just be like, hey, what's up, dude? Sorry, I hit you. Excuse me, can I get by you? I'm just trying to get the mustard, and just be normal, And some people are like that. Like I've seen people, like that they're very still in themselves and they don't, but they usually come from rough areas. Like they've been through some shit and they actually are like, you celebrities are scum. You're not better than me. Please move the fuck out of the way. I'm going to punch you, Brad Pitt. Like, but I think for the, a lot of us that are just kind of like in the game, it's like that culture programming is really, really deep. And that's the difficult deconditioning, is asking yourself why, is like, do we just go along with those things?
Yeah. That's interesting. Cause part of it's like, it's a shared experience. You know what I mean? So like if you and I went to high school together and then I bumped into someone from high school, I would call you and be like, I saw so-and-so from high school. Cause it's almost like a coincidence or something. Like I remember seeing a guy who was like a TikToker that I liked, but he wasn't like hugely popular yet. He is now. And when we lived in Nashville, I was at a restaurant and he was at a restaurant and I wanted to just be like, oh my God, I know, like I'd seen your TikToks. I'm not much of a fan person myself, but just to be like, it's an inside thing or whatever.
Yeah. And I think that's different. There's a thing where it's just kind of like, oh, I really respect your work. But the energy exchange is like, we're level.
You're not above.
You're a peer here. And I'm also wanting to just show my respect and like weird sync. I like was just thinking about you, okay, peace. But I remember not liking the feeling of like, we jolted to such success like so quickly that there was like a cut in my reality where I all of a sudden had people coming up to me and like freaking out and being weird in front of me that I didn't like because I felt the pedestalization. And I was like, you don't even know me. And I just flipped into this thing and you heard it on the radio and you saw my image and now you're like vampiring me. And I would always like try to be respectful, but the desire inside was trying to knock myself off that pedestal somehow. And it was like very difficult when you have the culture just creates that energy where people like want to idolize people that are on billboards and stuff. And they can't, it's very difficult to relate like in a balanced energy way.
Yeah.
When someone is treating you that way, and for the ego, it does feel good because you're like, oh, thank you. You really like my art. Like, oh, I really appreciate that. But it doesn't, I don't know. It's very difficult to get into a just normal energy exchange that isn't feeling like you're being pedestalized, and it's a cultural phenomenon. It's not necessarily like individual to the people. Like we all bought into that, you know.
Yeah, and I feel like it also translates to if you're dealing with when we have to deal with the kids' school or whatever, and they're talking to me like they're my boss.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just like the hierarchy and all the different ways it exists, like staying in your power and just being like, no, I mean, you're not my boss. You're chastising me right now because you have some sort of idea about who's in charge of who, you know.
I like that we're seeing more in that on TikTok, like people that are just not persuaded by, you know, cops coming up and, you know, pulling them over for wrong reasons or trying to arrest them, and people just staying in their power and holding to that is really awesome to see.
Yeah. It's a definite collapse of the hierarchy happening, you know, but it really like happens inside of us and with our own perception. And it's so fucking subtle. And so, yeah, I feel like celebrity culture has collapsed by 80% in the last 5 years, and it just doesn't seem like anybody told the celebrities. It doesn't seem like they know, you know. It's like the viewership of the Oscars or whatever has never been lower, and these guys are all still like going to 10 red carpet events a month.
The funny thing too is I feel like, I mean, I don't know if this is a side,
jerking each other off.
I don't know if this is a side tangent, but it does feel like people, like some people that are in the fame world that they start to struggle with getting fed, or they get canceled or something. They go into like a crisis of faith of some sort, and they try to like figure out where they've gone wrong, whether they were like caught up in addiction or sexual abuse, using their hierarchy, like using their status to kind of like take from other people, and they start to realize those things. But then it seems like most of those people redirect right into Christianity.
Dude, the Christianity pipeline is killing me right now. Yeah, and it's fascinating.
Like, it's so dominant in that, like the higher fame thing, because they need to go get fed somewhere, and like it's the best place to go get the self-importance still. It's like, oh, Jesus needs to save me, and like now I'm okay. And then they kind of become in a subcategory like re-worshipped, because people are like, oh, look who made it to Christianity, like the famous guy from above. And so then they get this self-importance again. Russell Brand.
Yeah.
But that's one of the most dominant ones. But it's like wild to watch it, because like you know, there's people like Jim Carrey seem to have like found a path to like actual self-empowerment, and like doing his own thing, you know. It's kind of like drawing his own path, and like seems to doesn't care about the external validation anymore, and is dealing with it as best as he can, because he's a really well-known face. So it's not that it's impossible, but it's just wild how many newly saved celebrities there are nowadays, and it being a subcategory of like being able to garner attention from people, right? It's like, it's not actual spiritual like self-enlightenment. It's some other weird subcategory that's just another trap in the matrix.
Well, I mean, the hierarchy is alive and well in Christianity, and you know, when I was a Christian, I went to one of these like televangelist churches or whatever, and fucking man, do we love D-list celebrities. You know, you can get booked on the speaking circuit. Like, he's already speaking. I'm like, where else in the world can you just immediately have a platform? How long have you been reading the Bible, dog? Like, how much do you know about Christianity? You were what they would consider a demon-possessed New Ager 15 minutes ago, and now you come in with your fucking fresh rape charge, and you're like, now I'm here. He's on like fucking panels.
Yeah, I guarantee you he's going to be a preacher soon. Like, he's going to have his own church, 100%, if it's not already happening.
Right.
And like, literally 3 years ago, he was talking about like some of the craziest like spirituality, cool new shit, and was like, kind of looked like he was like on this path to kind of find it. And then next thing you know, he's being baptized in a river with Bear Grylls, and now he's a like evangelicus
like
Christian,
the most irritating
and like knows
Christian.
it all, like, and it's like citing Bible verses, and Yeah, it's so obvious. It's just like an egotistical person like needing fed again, and was about to get canceled via a lot of his past like questionable, experiences. What better way to wipe that slate clean than
well,
to go get
exactly,
saved?
because like if it's going to be about taking accountability for sexual assault, then what better belief system to hop onto than my sins have been wiped away?
Dude, yeah, we've got a
Lord
perfect
Jesus
platform
Christ.
for you. You can get rid of all of that stuff. Come into this little thing and talk to the priest, and you are forgiven.
It's wild. I have to go to the bathroom, and then my notes say Kiki Pentagon, and I was like, what the fuck? Kiki is my stepmom's grandma name. I was like, what the hell? I want to talk about Kiki Pentagon. It's the Anunnaki Pentagon thing. My phone was like, I did not know that
Kiki.
word. Grandma Pentagon.
All right, back to you in a minute. Hit it, boys.
All right, so I haven't checked in on this though, because we were going to record this a while ago, but there is allegedly about to be disclosure from the Pentagon that the Anunnaki are returning.
I just still can't believe that, but I mean, I agree. I've seen posts about it too that seem legit, like that they've heard people in the Pentagon talking about it, and that they're gonna say
It's quote
something.
unquote like legit UFO people, right? Because I don't know anything about these fucking UFO people.
I think so. It's people that have been tasked to figure out, the UFO situation, that are within certain places of the government, I guess, is like what they're saying is coming from the Pentagon. So some kind of service people there, which come on. I mean, all of that is captured, but
If the Pentagon officially mentions the Anunnaki, no one is allowed to take anything seriously ever again. Like if we have entered
like, what?
the paradigm where the actual Pentagon mentions shit about the Anunnaki, if the word Anunnaki comes out of the Pentagon's mouth, you're not allowed to worry about anything ever again, because we live in an absolute made up world.
Yes.
That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, I didn't know what to. I mean, that was my first thought when I saw a couple posts about it. I was like, "Wait, what?" And my first instinct is like that there's been a lot of. I assume at some point, and a lot of people think this is just about how it's going to play out, but there's going to be some Project Bluebeam thing. Like, obviously, enough people have seen UAPs and UFOs. Enough people are aware of some kind of extraterrestrial intelligence, NIH, all these terms for it, non-human intelligence, all this, whatever term you want to put on it. There's something else that has higher awareness, higher tech than we do. And, the real truth of it to me is that, I don't know, there's so much of this I feel like you can't talk about on YouTube without it becoming difficult. But that shit's been going on for a long time. They have to control the way that's coming out and people discovering the truths of it, because eventually if you follow it back enough and you look into it enough and you have enough discernment and you have your own awareness, you're going to discover pretty soon that the government has been in cahoots with parts of it. And I wouldn't say that they are completely working side by side. There are parts of it that are, but then there's a lot of aspects that they don't understand either, that they are being manipulated and controlled by even higher things, doing bidding that is not positive. And I would even wager that there are people in government that are kind of Jedis within the system that are trying to lean it towards a more positive outcome. This whole talk about disclosure, I don't think it can actually happen because I think that breaks the game.
Right.
So there's always going to be manipulation and deception on deception on deception, and everyone is being played. If you're in the government, it's like that's why I say they're Jedis, because like you can't be in there and being able to like blow the whistle without somebody psychically knowing that you're doing that. So like they are real fucking Jedis if they're in there. But I don't doubt that there's some positive players in that game. And then I think there's a lot of people like the Lou Elizondo and this like even dude from Blink-182. Like I was poo-pooing him for a long time, but I'm like, there's some like deeper, harder truths that he seems to have his head around and knows the dangers that he's playing with and is still trying to kind of pull a thread that is for a positive thing. But I couldn't help with everything that I've been learning about the like how much the government is involved and how much that they think they know, but they don't, and how much they're being manipulated, that a story like this coming out could be half true. Like, could also be used mostly as deception, like, because Anunnaki is such a common term now, like everyone's talking about that, and everybody, I feel like for the most part, has a similar like understanding of where that comes from, and that it is kind of the core part of the game, you know, like that it's like we all stem from that. But it is kind of goes back and forth of whether that's like evil or positive, which is the nature of that Anunnaki story. It's like two beings, Enki and Enlil. One was, you know, positive, one was negative, and you know, one created us for the purpose of slaves, and then the other one was like, I don't want to do that, and then instilled some kind of secret DNA coding that would allow the humans to actually empower themselves and wake up. The whole story is really fascinating, and it is one of the more ancient ones that a lot of the religions and kind of myths stem from. So to me, my immediate response was like, oh, this is going to be a deception. They're going to roll this out because it's a popular term, and then everybody's going to fall into a new like deception and go, oh, the Anunnaki are here to save us. We're ready to be saved and give up our power, which I don't think is the game. It's like the whole thing is supposed to be like not playing into the deception and empowering your own self to build your own realities. That's the whole thing. But there are levels of like understanding that we are in this big cycle and there's something changing, and that there's a wave of energy coming in that you could say other higher awareness beings are on the cusp of, that are both negative influence, deceptive, that are trying to kind of turn the knobs in their favor for this cycle. So a bunch of beings starting to wake up and being able to manipulate those beings to come into their world so they can, you know, siphon energy off of them, but making the people believe that they're on a positive track. And then so that would be like the STS kind of, you know, service to self entities, higher awareness. So like way more capability of manipulating and fucking with you without you knowing it. And then there are other beings on that wave that are more STO leaning. So they're not intervening in any way on your process. They're there to support if you ask and you need. Could some of those beings on that wave be the ancestral Anunnaki originators? Maybe. But not in general are they all good or bad. Or like one or the other. It's a combination. And so most of the stuff that I hear about Anunnaki that's like popularized is like a binary thing. It's like they're all good or all bad. And there's not really a deeper understanding of the trickster nature of the entire process. And then I think there are also beings that are like on that wave coming in that are just observing, because it's like there's a huge cycle. It's a big transformation. It's like an exciting time to watch, and they're not intervening at all. They're just there watching, but they're a part of the energy. And so as I thought about it more, I was like, there could be some truth to that like maybe somebody is trying to like, put some information out that certain people that can pick up the truth of that will go, oh, interesting. Like I'm going to look out for that, but I'm not going to be deceived of it. I'm going to, observe it and make my decision as it comes. So I think primarily though, it feels like a new it's like some kind of testing the waters to see if everybody's like, the Anunnaki are coming. The Pentagon says it. So like, let's go out and wait for them to land on the lawn, and then you can deceive people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just like the same playbook where in the age of organized religion, gatekeepers were like, I can broker your relationship with God. I can be the in-between. It's like, I don't want anything to do with any motherfucking aliens that came through the Pentagon.
Yeah. And I think also a lot of this could just really be metaphor. Like we always want to put beings on it. Like a physical alien, the Anunnaki is going to show up and it's going to look like some lizard or some, but I think a lot of this is like metaphor and it's energy. So like, yeah, maybe the energy of the Anunnaki is showing up, but like you're going to feel that internally and it might activate and amplify something, a path that you're already on. And that could be positive or negative, STS or STO. But they're not going to show up on the Pentagon lawn and then like broker a deal and come in and give everybody technology. I think that has happened before. And everything that I've learned that when those stories have happened where there was like a civilization that like was not advanced in technology and some being showed up and gave them advanced technology and showed them how to like till fields, and all of a sudden there was this like spark of technology out of nowhere in civilization. That was all manipulative. That was all like to get us to this point now and kind of play a long game. And I think those were all what we'd call time travelers. They've just been bopping back and forth through history to control long narratives. And most of the time that's what that was. I think the real truth of this game is not to get external help in any way that is that kind of overt thing where somebody's showing up and like giving you the keys to, giving you a like crutch to get through. Like, I think there's help via genuine asking for the help. That's like the STO thing. So it's like you can get insight and help. But when something shows up and is like, I'm here to help you and this is what I'm going to do, it is encroaching on a core part of the game, which is this free will thing where like, we're supposed to be able to do it ourselves. That's why we came to do it. That's why we came into the game, is to figure out how to get out of it. And the growth and the knowledge that comes from doing that is what we're after, not to get a helping hand. But it's so painful and so difficult, like we're driven to want to be saved. And that's what they take advantage of, is they can play the savior role and then pull you into another disempowered state or disempowered game. So it's sketchy. I mean, I think obviously anything that's coming from officials of like the Pentagon is like, needs to be highly questioned. But I don't doubt that sometimes some truths are going to be kind of sprinkled in there that are interesting to pay attention to.
Right. I'm realizing the parallels between wanting the aliens to save and running back to Jesus because you got charged with rape. It's just like, we want a savior because it means we don't have to take personal responsibility. Yeah. And, the cross of Sleeping Phoenix is just like survival of the fittest, only the fittest this time it's about your personal power and it's about your perspective on reality. It's about your emotional, like your ability to move along with your emotions. Like that's what's going to determine.
Not be led by your emotions, but.
Well, yeah, but I guess like what we call emotions in this culture, specifically like the West coming out across the planning, is nervous system states. Like we think emotions are dysregulation, and because we don't know what the fuck to do with them. But like a healthy emotional state, like solar plexus awareness, is it's that 55th thing, that the 55th gate. I'm an expert on all this because I did this class. That 55th gate where the shadow is victim consciousness. This is where you're just getting completely tossed about by reality. You think reality is happening to you, which means you don't understand the mechanics, that reality is a reflection of your internal experience. So whatever you are experiencing that is happening to you is happening inside of you. And so if you want it to stop happening to you in your physical reality, you have to do something about it happening inside of you, which means taking responsibility for your own internal experience and fixing not even fixing, whatever, coming in reconciling the inside stuff so it stops reflecting externally. And then the higher expressions of the 55th gate are really just vibes. It's like, what do you feel like doing today? So do you feel like working? Do you feel like taking in info? Do you feel like working in the garden? Do you feel like socializing? Do you feel like, and so like in the Cross of Sleeping Phoenix, our life is really determined by how we quote unquote feel in that moment. And you might feel sad, you might feel melancholy, you might feel inspired, you might feel, withdrawn, but those aren't like the way that people are tossed about. The thing that we call emotions is like reactivity. It's like people reacting, trying to control their external reality. So that's not what I mean by emotions, but like Cross the Sleeping Phoenix is literally like your life is determined in the present moment by vibes, and you're in your personal power. So you're not reacting to external things. If something externally is showing up, you know that it's happening inside of you. So then you work on the inside and adjust it until your outside looks how you want it to look. But, shit's still going to be like the world's going to be falling apart.
And that's the thing, is learning how to build your own worlds, is being able to adjust it that way.
Exactly. But it's your own internal experience. No one's coming to save you. Yeah. No one's going to fix it for you. No one's going to make it. There's not going to be an external solution to fix your relationship with your own melancholy. You're going to have to learn how to sit with melancholy, because this is a melancholic age, And so it's just you. It's just you, and every single thing is going to be pressurizing each individual to step into their own individual power. And the longer you fight that, by trying to get everyone else to do what you want them to do so that you can feel okay in your own skin, is just like, it's just going to get more pressure. Like, because the more this energy arrives, the harder it's going to be. And, so the alien rhetoric, to me, all of it is just, there's so much saviorism. Like, I took out the part where we talked about our own saviorism, but it's like everyone's in a perpetual state of looking for a fucking sky daddy or some sort of savior to come save them, or trying to be a savior to others.
That's the biggest one too in the spiritual movement. It's like, and that's the thing. That's one of the holes in the aura that's so easy for another energy that is higher awareness to take advantage of and make you do their bidding.
Yeah.
Because they connect and then make you feel self-important and that you're supposed to be here to save humanity. And a lot of times, like, I think that communication can be true in some senses, like you're here to save humanity, but it's through everything you're talking about is like empowering yourself and like saving yourself, then creates a world where, like, if everyone did that, we save humanity.
You then model it to other people. You teach people how to do it.
Yeah, and you don't save them. You go into a reality where everybody is in the same frequency, and so like from this reality, it looks like we saved everyone, But it has never that external thing. And I think the biggest thing, like so many people in the like spiritual community, the world of this like new age thing that people get caught up on and are channeling some Arcturian and this galactic federation, and they told me I have to do this, is right away you're like, I can't trust it, because no actual positive entity is going to tell you what to do, because that is that free will thing. It's like you can ask for help from a being that would be like STO. They're never going to be like, this is what you need to do, because that's not the free will thing. They will give you answers. If you ask the right questions, they will like help you, but it's mostly they're just guiding you and going, well, that's your choice. It's like your choice to do this, but like, here's this information, you know, and that is so rare to see when you see these people channeling other beings. It's like they're in a savior complex and they've been taken advantage of to disseminate like false examples of ways to do it.
Yeah. There's so much of that brand of psychosis on TikTok.
It's a jungle out there. It's like really wild.
I feel like the cross the planet, like, you know, the saying, give a man a fish, teach him how to, or give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach a man how to fish, feed him for a lifetime. Mm-hmm. I feel like that is our relationship to collective energy moving forward into the Cross the Sleeping Phoenix. Like, we come from such a collective reality that we come from a reality in which someone gives us a fish. Like, you go to the store, you get the fish. I don't know how to fucking fish. You know what I mean? I don't know how to do a bunch of things for myself because someone else did those and I brought this one thing, right? And so in the Cross of Sleeping Phoenix, the only collective energy we will have is about sharing information. So the way that I see it is like, the more you can learn to do for yourself, the better you're going to be. And that doesn't necessarily mean growing food or whatever, but like solving your own problems, resourcing your own, like knowing your own understanding, learning about your own body rather than relying on professionals to catch every single thing and get everything right. You know, learning what your body likes, what food does it like, how much exercise does it want, how to keep yourself healthy, like how do your systems work? You know, if you get a diagnosis, understanding that and starting to like resource your own solutions and starting to habituate learning how to fish, you know, and then if you want to help people in the world, learning that it's like providing them with maps, providing them with information is how we're going to help people, because the world's not going to give you a fish soon, you know, and that'll take time to collapse, but that is where the energy is going.
Yeah.
And, yeah, like I see in the future, it's like if I invent something, because there'll be so much innovation, but like if I invent something, I don't know if I've said this here or just the course, but if I invent something now, it's like a corporation then makes it in a factory and blah, blah, blah. Where I see in the future is like if I invent something, I then share a blueprint for it to make on your own 3D printer. And then you can decide to use a 3D printer and listen to my podcasts about how I made it, you know what I mean? How to use it or whatever, where it's just like everything's not going to be super easily handed to you, but there's actually going to be more resources. It's going to be more decentralized. So you're going to put things down on the table. People can choose to pick them up.
Yeah.
But we are very conditioned to have things spoon fed to us through like an insane amount of, you know, specifically here in the West, convenience, and also just like not having to know much about except for our one thing. But that really is a construct.
Yeah.
You know? And so knowing that energy is shifting, I think this is where so many new age people get derailed, whether it be by aliens coming, disclosure. Like, what do you think disclosure is going to do? It's like they think once disclosure comes, then everyone's going to validate me for believing in aliens, and then the government is going to be forced to be correct. And it's like, none of that is going to none of that is where the energy is going. Like, it's no one's coming to say it. You're not going to get raptured. You know, no one's coming to, I mean, I guess, I don't know, like other people live in a different reality, but it just seems very obvious to me that it's time to step into your own power, time to start taking charge of your own reality and taking care of yourself. New Earth is not just going to pop into the reality without you having to do any fucking work about it. New Earth is a reflection of your own internal resonance, you know?
Yeah, and I almost see it like the new Earth is not like something that the split isn't going to be like, here's a new Earth that pops out and the old one gets destroyed. It's that virtual thing where like when you start doing inner work and you start changing your external reality via inner work, the idea of like switching timelines, you're going through little like wormholes that you're moving to a different Earth that's going to experience this energetic shift differently. And the more you do that work, like you're moving into a reality that, because it's all virtual,
Yep.
that doesn't, the energy shift that happens is not experienced as a cataclysm and as a rapture. But when you're not doing that work and continuing to look for external validation and all that, you're kind of staying stagnant in an earth that is ending. Like, so it's kind of metaphor too, that the earth that we know of is ending, and maybe some people that don't move with the frequencies, and it's all free will choice, that's not like good or bad, will experience this idea of like a cataclysm that is the end of their actual physical experience. But the end of the world as we know it is ending, but that doesn't mean you as a physical being have to end with it. And moving to like constantly every day, I feel like we oscillate into different timelines. Sometimes we're back in a world where it feels like, oh shit, it is going to end here really soon with all the weather. And then the next day we adjust things and it's like, boom, that like went away. It's not even happening here. And so that's like, I think that is really happening. Like we're moving quicker and quicker. Every day you can like jump on a different timeline where the earth doesn't end, and we blast through this thing. But it is, yeah, it's no one's going to save us and like jolt us onto that earth. It's just an inner game that you have to choose where to be, you know?
Right.
But I see it as just like hologram, like these little different earths that like we jump onto at different timeline shifts. And if you can stay on one that is like consistently outside of the wake of this like cataclysm, then you don't experience it. And maybe we'll get to a point where we do, you can kind of observe parts of the world like readjusting and shifting, like whatever pole shift that's going to come. Like the idea of like the Noah story, like building an ark is like your inner world is you're building an ark that you don't have to experience. You can be one of the ones that like doesn't get the cosmic cleansing that happens, and you actually survive through it and land in a new world. It's all virtual to me, you know, but it's very easy to get lost in the drama and the spectacle of like, it's all over and we're all going to die, or like, you know, all of those stories are very easy to get caught up into. But getting caught up too much into it, if it's virtual, like you're pulling that timeline kind of, you know?
Yeah.
Well, this is a good place to end. We've gotten to paradox land again.
Yeah. It's like, it's not going to be easy and it's not going to be hard. Mark has sessions. I don't know if I have sessions or not. I think you can't sign up for the 2027 course now, but it will be available cheaper in a few weeks.
Cool.
Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.